In the top stories, Prime Minister Drew among group honored by Dean Glassford Primary School. 13 million people suffering from strange diseases in Brazil, and at least 36 dead and 85 injured in a fiery Greek train crash. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Today is Wednesday, the 1st of March, 2023. I'm Jason Davis. Nationally, Prime Minister the Honourable Dr. Terence Drew was among several persons awarded when staff and students of the Dean Glassford Primary School honoured 17 community icons at a special icons ceremony on Tuesday for their contribution to the community. The presentation wrapped up History and Heritage Month activities at the school. The Prime Minister and Joycelyn Blanchard were awarded in the area of health, Lincoln Bass in the category of entertainment, Laurice Dolores Hobson in education, Maxwell Controller Bass in security, Jonathan Bass and Mabel Morton in entrepreneurship, Atiba Harris and Shaquille Bazi in sports, and Patricia Nurse Clark for community development. Additionally, Reverend Joseph Edmead and Archdeacon Isaiah Phillip were awarded in the category of ecclesiastical affairs, Kennedy Natural Hazel and Aidan Hendrickson culture, Henry Thomas and Mavis Phillip for environment, and Leon Anthony in agriculture. The special icons ceremony was celebrated under the theme, Celebrating the Ones Who Inspire Us to Do More and Become More. The Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, or 5Cs, in collaboration with the European Union, the Global Climate Change Alliance Plus Initiative, and the ACP Group of States, is hosting a media sensitization workshop and tour from March 1 to 2. The workshop is being held at the St. Kitts Marit Resort under the umbrella Enhancing Climate Resilience in CARIFORM Countries under the theme, The Collapse of the Caribbean from Climate Change is a Transboundary Risk for All Current and Future Generations. On the second day, workshop participants will be taken on a bus tour to visit demonstrations of climate change adaptation interventions currently undertaken by the 5Cs in St. Kitts. The workshop is being funded by the European Union's European Development Fund. Now for a bit of sport. Keon Rockets have shot back up to the top of the SKNFA Premier League table with a comfortable 2-0 victory over Honda Newtown United FC. The match was played at the Newtown Sporting Complex. More in this report.
The SKNFA Premier League rescheduled match between Flow 4G Keon Rockets and Honda Newtown United played on Monday at the Newtown Sporting Complex, with Keon defeating the home side 2-0. That result shot Keon back up to the top of the table with 9 points. Scoring for Keon, Carlos Bertie in the 22nd minute and Malik Hendrickson in the 39th minute. After the match, coach of Keon, Al Edwards, said his team stuck to the game plan for most of the match.
We got the early chances, probably scored maybe just 2 out of 3 or 4. At half-time, just wanted to be cautious, not too overly aggressive, and be careful, protect what you got. We expected them to come to look for equalizer, look for the first goal, and so we just went into a low block more or less and held out. Sometimes it's got to be ugly, but we need the points.
Was your strategy in the second half to absorb the pressure, or were you still hoping to get another goal or 2?
Absorb the pressure and both, and get another goal or 2. But in terms of the release, the main release person got injured, which is Bertie. And it kind of went away from the game plan in terms of getting the ball to the key man, cradling it, and then we will fill. But that didn't happen. But nonetheless, it was overall a good fight. Something got to be ugly. Something just can't go all your way. But you got 2 goals already, and that's what really matters.
Newtown's coach Anthony Nets Isaac said the team defended poorly in the first half, though they responded well in the second half.
I think in the first half we let the game get away from us in terms of poor marking in the defensive area. But as you say, we came back, we went in and we discussed it, and came back in the second half. And we made a good showing in the second half because we dominated the second half of the game, totally dominated the second half of the game. Just that you didn't get the score down the goal that you wanted.
Now, how do you prevent this from starting a snowball effect? As you started off the season well, you don't want a loss now to come and derail your progress.
Well, again, as I said from the start, it's about the fellas them got to be motivating themselves from game to game. As I tell you, in the second half, we dominated Cairn in the second half, so we have to take that and carry it into the next game and hope that we don't lose the next game, so we can go forward and with the next win.
The SKNFA Premier League continues this weekend with matches at the St Mary's Park in Cairn and the Warner Park.
Moving now to news on the regional scene. Brazilian health authorities report that some 13 million citizens are afflicted with rare diseases for which there is no specific treatment in 95% of the cases. More in this Telesur report.
While commemorating Rare Diseases World Day, the Brazilian Ministry of Health said 65 people per 100,000 inhabitants in the country are suffering from some rare disease. Senator Mara Gabrilli said these diseases reveal exclusion for millions of Brazilians afflicted with such rare diseases do not have access to adequate diagnosis nor treatment. The senator said that it is important the country devises comprehensive healthcare policies for people with such rare conditions, and she welcomed initiatives such as providing those people with free medicine. The list of rare diseases includes 7,000 to 8,000 conditions, out of which the most commonly known are multiple sclerosis, hemophilia, optic neuromyelitis, autism, acromegaly, Cushing disease, autoimmune thyroiditis, Addison's disease, hypopituitarism, Fanconi's anemia, vascular dementia, Hodgkin's disease, encephalitis, cystic fibrosis, and hyperhidrosis.
Relatives of a British family who owned about 1,200 slaves on 6 plantations in Grenada have apologized for their family's actions. More in this GBN News report.
At a reparations forum hosted by the Grenada National Reparation Commission and the University of the West Indies on Monday, New York-based BBC reporter Laura Trevelyan read a letter of apology signed by 7 members of the Trevelyan family for their ancestors' role in slavery on the island.
To the people of Grenada, we, the undersigned, write to apologise for the actions of our ancestors in holding your ancestors in slavery.
A ceremony was held to establish a fund where Laura personally pledged £100,000 to the local reparations committee. The money will come from a pending BBC pension payout.
I came up with that figure because that's what I, at this moment in time, can afford to give. I hope, I'm 54 years old, and when I turn 55 in August, that's the moment when I can give this money, because I will actually come into a pension from the BBC. And so I'm taking a proportion of that pension as a cash payment to give to the people of Grenada.
The letter was handed over to Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, who promised to fight for reparations.
Slavery wasn't ended overnight, and the fight for reparations is going to be a long, hard, and difficult fight. But it is a fight that we owe to our ancestors, because they never accepted slavery as normal. They never accepted that their position in life was to be slaved.
After receiving a letter of apology on behalf of Grenada, he presented it to members of the local reparations committee, who are expected to forward it to the regional reparations committee. In 1834, the family received compensation equivalent to £3 million in today's money as part of the abolition of slavery. Vice-Chancellor and Chairman of the CARICOM Reparations Committee, Professor Hilary Beckles, compared the compensation offered to slaveholders to compensation offered to bank robbers for their crimes. The Grenada Reparations Committee Chairman, Ali Gill, described the occasion as a day of remembrance.
This apology and financial commitment from Laura Trevelyan and the family should serve as a clarion call to other families, institutions and governments in Europe to acknowledge their wrongs, apologize, and commit to repairing the harms done by the ancestors.
As the ceremony progressed, a group of people who did not support the ceremony and the Trevelyans' financial commitments held a peaceful protest outside of the building. Reporting for GBN News, Beverly Telesford.
Internationally, a passenger train carrying hundreds of people collided at high speed with an oncoming freight train in a fiery wreck in northern Greece, killing 36 and injuring at least 85, officials said on Wednesday. More in this Euronews report.
The evacuation process is ongoing at the site of the deadly train crash in northern Greece, killing at least 36 people. Officials say the operation is being carried out under very difficult conditions due to the severity of the crash. The collision happened just before midnight on Tuesday near the city of Larissa, some 380 kilometres north of Athens, and involved a passenger train travelling between Thessaloniki and Larissa and a freight train. Multiple train carriages derailed and at least 3 caught fire. Rail operator Hellenic Train says the northbound passenger train from Athens had about 350 passengers on board. 66 of them are in hospital. Many passengers were university students returning home from holiday. Government officials say the army had been contacted to assist in the rescue. During the early hours on Wednesday, rescuers searched frantically through the twisted, smoking wreckage. Several people had been thrown through the windows, according to survivors. The Greek media says this is the worst railway accident Greece has ever seen.
The United Kingdom's Prime Minister has been in Northern Ireland to sell his new deal with the European Union to ease post-Brexit trade. Rishi Sunak is hoping the Windsor Framework, as it is called, will finally break the political deadlock in the province. More in this report.
Buoyed by the success of getting a difficult deal with the EU done, Rishi Sunak visited Northern Ireland on Tuesday to sell it.
And I'm really pleased. In fact, I'm over the moon that yesterday we managed to have a decisive breakthrough with our negotiations with the EU, reached agreement, the new Windsor Framework, that I think is an extraordinary positive step for Northern Ireland.
The UK Prime Minister met local business leaders at the Coca-Cola factory in Lisburn, and his pitch was as fizzy as the drinks he stood in front of. But see if you can spot what's caught the attention of Remainers across the land.
Northern Ireland is in the unbelievably special position, unique position in the entire world, European continent, in having privileged access, not just to the UK home market, which is enormous, 5th biggest in the world, but also the European Union single market. Nobody else has that. No one. Only you guys, only here. And that is the prize.
Of course, it was a very similar prize that the rest of the UK gave up with Brexit. The Windsor Framework changes the problematic Northern Ireland Protocol, an earlier deal with the EU which established trade barriers between Northern Ireland and mainland UK, and so angered Northern Ireland's unionists that they collapsed the power-sharing government a year ago. They'll need to be happy with the new deal to come back to the Stormont Assembly.
We listened very carefully to what the Prime Minister said, but we need to translate that into what the legal text actually says. What does it mean for business? What does it mean for consumers? And fundamentally, what does it mean for Northern Ireland's place within the United Kingdom and our ability to trade within the internal market of the UK?
Although they're not going to be bounced into a quick decision, the DUP will be feeling the pressure, particularly if the deal continues to receive widespread approval. The longer that the DUP are seen as a block on functioning government here at Stormont, the less happy voters are going to feel about them. You can feel the frustration at Orla Smith's chain of cafes. The businesswoman wants to see the back of sectarian politics here.
Our health service is getting worse, our educational underachievement is getting worse, our poverty is getting worse, the class divide between those that have and those that have not is getting bigger. So, you know, if Stormont is up and running tomorrow, will that change that? Only if they put those issues at the top of the political agenda.
The Windsor Framework, the Northern Ireland Protocol, unionist, nationalist. Such matters are less important to many people in Northern Ireland these days than just getting things to work properly. Rory Challens, Al Jazeera, Belfast.
And now for the weather. Present weather is partly cloudy skies. The temperature for today is 28 degrees Celsius or 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Winds are a gentle breeze of 10 miles per hour from a northeasterly direction. Seas are moderate with waves of 4 to 6 feet, consisting mainly of northeasterly swells. A high surf advisory remains in effect mainly for the northern coastlines of the islands. The weather forecast in St. Kitts and Nevis today will be partly sunny in general with a 20% or slight chance of a brief isolated shower. Tonight will be mostly fair and cool conditions. Sunset today will be at 6:18 p.m., sunrise tomorrow at 6:28 a.m. And that brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Jason Davis.